Picture this. It's a scorching summer afternoon in July 2026. You're at home, trying to cool off, when suddenly everything goes dark. Your air conditioner stops humming. Your refrigerator goes silent. Your phone has 30% battery and there's no way to charge it. The power company says it could be hours, maybe days. For millions of Americans, this isn't just a nightmare scenario. It's becoming our new reality. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because today we're diving deep into something that should concern every single American, regardless of where you live. I've spent the last 3 weeks researching power grid data, talking to energy experts, and analyzing infrastructure reports. What I discovered genuinely shocked me. The United States, the most powerful nation on Earth, is facing an energy crisis that could leave entire states in the dark throughout 2026. Now, before we jump in, I want you to do something. Type your state name in the comments right now. Just your state, no explanation needed. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why I asked you to do that. Today, I'm breaking down the 15 states that face the highest risk of experiencing blackouts next year. But this isn't just about listing states and moving on. We're going to explore why this is happening, what may do about it. Because here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Our power grid was built for the America of 1970, not the America of 2026. And we're all paying the price for that outdated thinking. So, let's get into it. Before we count down the 15 most vulnerable states, you need to understand why we're even having this conversation in the first place. Think about your grandparents' home. Maybe they still have the original electrical panel from when the house was built. That's essentially what we're dealing with on a national scale, except magnified by thousands of miles of power lines, substations, and transformers. The American power grid is ancient, and I'm not exaggerating. 70% of transmission lines and power transformers are over 25 years old. Some are pushing 50 years. Imagine using the same smartphone for 50 years and expecting it to handle today's apps. That's our grid situation. But age is just one piece of the puzzle. Climate change has turned our weather patterns into something our grandparents wouldn't recognize. Heat waves are hotter and last longer. Winter storms are more severe. Hurricanes are more powerful, and wildfires, they're burning bigger and faster than ever before. Each of these weather events puts massive strain on electrical systems that were never designed to handle such extremes. Then there's the demand side of the equation. We're using more electricity than ever before in human history. Electric vehicles are becoming mainstream. Every new home has dozens of devices constantly drawing power. Data centers are popping up everywhere to handle cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and yes, even cryptocurrency mining. We're asking a 70-year-old system to power a 21st century lifestyle. Something has to give. And it's giving. In 2023, major power disruptions in the United States increased by 34% compared to the previous year. That's not a trend, that's a crisis unfolding in real time. Now, there's one more factor we need to discuss, and this one's complicated. The transition to renewable energy is absolutely necessary for our planet's future. But here's what most people don't realize. Transitioning power sources while maintaining reliability is incredibly difficult. Solar and wind are fantastic, but they're intermittent. The sun doesn't always shine. The wind doesn't always blow. We need massive battery storage systems to make renewable energy reliable, and we're racing to build that infrastructure while simultaneously dealing with all the other problems I just mentioned. It's like trying to replace the engine of a car while driving down the highway at 70 miles per hour. So when you combine aging infrastructure, extreme weather, skyrocketing demand, and a complicated energy transition, you get what experts call a perfect storm scenario. And some states are sitting right in the eye of that storm. Let me show you which ones. Let's start with states 15 through 11. These states face elevated risk, meaning blackouts are possible but not inevitable. Think of this as your warning tier. State number 15, North Carolina. The Tar Heel state has been growing rapidly, especially in cities like Charlotte and Raleigh.
Population growth means more demand, but North Carolina faces a unique challenge. It sits in the crosshairs of hurricane season. We all remember the devastation these storms can cause.
When hurricanes hit, they don't just knock out power for a few hours. They can damage substations, snap transmission towers, and flood critical equipment. Recovery takes weeks, sometimes months. With hurricane intensity increasing due to warmer ocean temperatures, North Carolina's coastal and inland grid infrastructure is increasingly vulnerable. Add in the fact that many rural areas still rely on older equipment, and you've got a recipe for extended outages when major storms roll through. State number 14, Oregon. This might surprise some of you. Oregon? Really? Yes, really. The Pacific Northwest has historically enjoyed mild weather and reliable power. But things are changing fast. Remember that unprecedented heat wave in 2021 when Portland hit 116 degrees? Power demand shattered records. The grid wasn't ready. Oregon also faces increasing wildfire threats. When fires approach power lines, utilities are forced to shut off power preemptively to prevent the lines from sparking new fires. It's a necessary safety measure, but it means planned blackouts for thousands of people. The state is also heavily reliant on hydroelectric power, which sounds great until you realize that drought conditions are becoming more common. Less water means less power generation, right when summer heat drives demand higher. State number 13, Alabama. Alabama's power infrastructure serves both dense urban areas like Birmingham and sprawling rural communities. This creates unique challenges because upgrading rural power lines is expensive and complicated. The state faces severe weather from multiple directions: tornadoes in spring, hurricanes from the Gulf Coast, and ice storms in winter. Each weather type requires different infrastructure hardening strategies, and frankly, Alabama's behind on implementing many of them. Recent analyses of Alabama's grid reliability show concerning trends. Peak demand periods are becoming harder to manage, and extreme weather events are increasing in frequency. State number 12, South Carolina. South Carolina faces similar challenges to North Carolina, but with one additional complication: nuclear power plants. Don't get me wrong, nuclear energy is reliable and clean, but nuclear facilities require constant power for cooling systems. During extreme weather events, this creates a circular dependency problem that adds stress to the entire system. The state's coastal regions are experiencing more frequent flooding, which threatens underground electrical infrastructure. Saltwater intrusion corrodes equipment faster than anticipated, requiring expensive replacements that haven't been budgeted for adequately. State number 11, Georgia. Atlanta is booming. The greater metropolitan area is adding tens of thousands of new residents every year. That's wonderful for the economy, but infrastructure development hasn't kept pace with population growth. Georgia summers are brutal. When everyone cranks their air conditioning simultaneously during heat waves, the grid strains under the load. The state has experienced several close calls in recent years where grid operators had to plead with residents to reduce usage to prevent widespread outages. Rural Georgia also faces challenges with aging infrastructure. Many smaller towns are served by older equipment that's increasingly unreliable during extreme weather. Now pause for a second. If you're in any of these 5 states, drop a comment and let me know. Have you experienced power issues in your area? I'm genuinely curious about your first-hand experiences. Now we're moving into states 10 through 6. This is the moderate to high-risk category. If you live here, blackouts aren't just possible, they're probable. State number 10, Arkansas. Arkansas doesn't make national headlines often, but it should when it comes to grid vulnerability. The state sits in what meteorologists call Tornado Alley, experiencing hundreds of tornadoes annually. These storms don't just knock down trees, they destroy transmission infrastructure. Arkansas has significant rural areas with older grid components that haven't been upgraded in decades. When severe storms hit, Repair crews face challenges accessing damaged sites, which extends outage durations. The state also experiences summer heat waves that drive cooling demand through the roof. With limited ability to import power from neighboring states during peak periods, Arkansas residents could face rolling blackouts during the hottest weeks of summer. State number 9, Nevada. Las Vegas is one of the fastest growing cities in America. All those new homes, hotels, and casinos need power. Lots of it. Nevada faces a brutal combination of extreme heat and limited water resources. Many power plants require water for cooling. When lakes and rivers run low, power generation capacity drops. This is already happening at facilities that depend on Lake Mead and other shrinking water sources.
The state is investing heavily in solar power, which makes sense given all that desert sunshine. But solar panels become less efficient in extreme heat, and they obviously don't work at night when Las Vegas demand is highest due to all that neon and entertainment. Battery storage technology could solve this, but Nevada hasn't built enough storage capacity yet to fully bridge the gap. State number 8, Mississippi. Mississippi has some of the oldest power infrastructure in the nation. Parts of the grid haven't seen major upgrades since the 1970s. That's not an exaggeration. The state faces threats from Gulf Coast hurricanes, summer heat waves, and severe storms. But here's the real issue. Mississippi has struggled with investment in infrastructure upgrades due to economic challenges. The money simply isn't there to modernize as quickly as needed. When Hurricane Katrina hit in 2005, parts of Mississippi went without power for weeks. Climate scientists warn that storms of Katrina's intensity or greater are becoming more frequent. The state's grid isn't significantly more prepared now than it was then. State number 7, Oklahoma. Tornado season in Oklahoma is no joke. The state experiences more tornadoes per square mile than almost anywhere else on Earth. Each major tornado outbreak damages power infrastructure across wide swaths of the state. But tornadoes aren't Oklahoma's only problem. The state also experiences extreme temperature swings, from below-zero winter storms to scorching summer heat above 110 degrees. This constant expansion and contraction stresses electrical equipment beyond its design parameters. Oklahoma also has an unusual grid situation. Parts of the state connect to different regional grids, which complicates coordination during emergencies. When one region faces problems, it's harder to shift power from elsewhere to compensate. State number 6, New Mexico. New Mexico's geography creates unique challenges. The state has vast distances between population centers, requiring long transmission lines across harsh terrain. Maintaining these lines is expensive and difficult. Summer temperatures in New Mexico are rising faster than the national average. Cities like Albuquerque are experiencing longer heat waves with higher peak temperatures. The state's grid was designed for the climate of decades ago, not the reality of today. New Mexico is heavily dependent on imported energy during peak demand periods. When neighboring states also face high demand, there's not enough power to go around. This sets up potential crisis scenarios during regional heat waves. Water scarcity also affects New Mexico's power generation. Like Nevada, the state faces tough choices about allocating limited water resources between human consumption, agriculture, and power plant cooling. Before we move to the top 5, let me ask you something. Are you starting to see patterns here? Drop a comment if you've noticed what most of these states have in common. Geography? Climate? Something else? Let's discuss in the comments. Now we arrive at the 5 states facing the highest blackout risk in 2026. If you live in one of these states, pay close attention. This directly affects your life. State number 5, Florida. The Sunshine State has a lot going for it, but power grid resilience isn't one of them. Florida's population has exploded in recent years. Millions of people have moved to Florida, and each one plugs in devices, runs air conditioning, and increases demand. Florida faces constant hurricane threats every single year. When major hurricanes make landfall, the damage to electrical infrastructure is catastrophic. We saw this with Hurricane Ian, which left over 2 million people without power, some for weeks. But here's what many people don't consider. Florida is a peninsula. That geographic reality means the state has limited connections to the broader national grid. Florida largely has to generate its own power. When generation facilities go offline during storms, there's no easy way to import massive amounts of replacement power. Florida also faces unique challenges from sea level rise and saltwater intrusion. Underground cables and low-lying substations are increasingly vulnerable to flooding, not just during hurricanes, but during regular high tides in some coastal areas. The state is racing to harden infrastructure and build redundancy, but it's a race against time and nature. With climate scientists predicting more intense hurricanes in the coming years, Florida residents should absolutely prepare for recurring power disruptions. State number 4, Arizona. Arizona is experiencing some of the most dramatic temperature increases in the nation. Phoenix has seen summer temperatures exceed 115 degrees for extended periods. At those temperatures, electrical equipment literally fails. Transformers overheat, power lines sag and touch vegetation, causing fires.
Everything breaks down. The state's population is booming, especially in Phoenix and Tucson. More people means more air conditioners running at full blast during those brutal summers. Peak demand is breaking records year after year. Arizona is investing in solar energy, which seems perfect for a desert state. But the physics of solar panels present a challenge. They become less efficient as temperature rises. When Arizona needs power most, during the hottest hours of the day, solar panels aren't performing at maximum capacity. Water scarcity adds another layer of complexity. Arizona's power plants need cooling water, but the Colorado River is drying up. Power generation and water resources are on a collision course, and something has to give. Grid operators in Arizona have already issued warnings about potential rolling blackouts during summer 2026 if the state experiences heat waves similar to recent years. That's not speculation. That's official utility company communication to residents. State number 3, Louisiana. Louisiana's power grid has been through absolute hell in recent years. Hurricane Ida, Hurricane Laura, severe storms, flooding. The infrastructure has taken beating after beating, and it's showing. New Orleans and surrounding areas have experienced multiple extended blackouts in recent years. When Hurricane Ida hit in 2021, over 1 million people lost power. Some areas went dark for more than a month. An entire month without electricity in the heat of Louisiana's summer. Louisiana's coastal geography makes it uniquely vulnerable. Rising sea levels threaten low-lying electrical infrastructure. Stronger hurricanes are becoming more frequent. And the state's aging power grid, particularly in rural and coastal areas, isn't equipped to handle this new reality. Chemical plants and oil refineries along the coast require constant power. When the grid fails, these facilities can face dangerous situations that require controlled shutdowns. This creates economic ripple effects throughout the region and the nation. Louisiana is working on grid hardening and underground power line installation, but these projects take years and billions of dollars. In the meantime, residents face recurring blackout risks every hurricane season. State number 2, California. California's power problems are well documented, but many people don't understand how serious the situation has become. The state faces a truly unprecedented combination of challenges. Wildfires are the most visible threat. When fires threaten power lines, utilities must shut off power preemptively to prevent those lines from sparking new fires. These public safety power shutoffs can leave millions without electricity for days. California's heat waves are becoming longer and more intense. The state experienced rolling blackouts during extreme heat events in recent years when everyone maxed out their air conditioning simultaneously. The state is leading the nation in renewable energy adoption, which is admirable, but it's created what engineers call the duck curve problem. Solar energy floods the grid during the day, then disappears in the evening, right when demand spikes as people come home from work. The grid struggles to manage this rapid transition. California is also closing nuclear and natural gas plants for environmental reasons faster than it's building battery storage to compensate. This creates capacity gaps that leave the grid vulnerable during extreme conditions. The state has the most aggressive electric vehicle adoption rates in the nation. By 2026, millions of EVs will be charging daily, many during peak evening hours. The grid wasn't designed for this level of additional load. California's interconnected challenges, massive population, and aggressive policy timeline create a perfect storm scenario. Blackouts in California during 2026 aren't just possible, they're almost guaranteed during certain weather conditions. But California isn't number one on this list. There's one state facing even greater blackout risk. Before I reveal it, take a guess. Drop your prediction in the comments right now. Which state do you think faces the highest blackout risk in 2026? State number 1, Texas. If you guess Texas, you understand exactly what's happening with America's power grid. Texas operates its own independent electrical grid called ERCOT. This independence means Texas doesn't have to follow certain federal regulations, but it also means the state can't easily import power from other states during emergencies. We all remember February 2021. A winter storm that shouldn't have caused major problems plunged Texas into darkness. Over 4 million people lost power. Some temperatures inside homes dropped to dangerous levels. People died. The state's independent grid, designed primarily for summer cooling loads, couldn't handle extreme winter demand. But here's the terrifying truth. Texas faces threats from both extreme cold and extreme heat.
Summer 2023 saw Texas come within minutes of widespread blackouts during a heat wave. Grid operators had to beg residents to reduce usage to prevent total system collapse. Texas is growing faster than any other state. People and businesses are flooding into Texas, attracted by the economy and lifestyle. But electrical infrastructure development isn't keeping pace. More people means more demand on an already stressed system. The state's grid is heavily dependent on natural gas power plants. When winter storms hit, natural gas production and delivery can fail simultaneously, exactly when power demand spikes for heating. This creates a cascading failure scenario. Texas is investing billions into grid improvements, but experts warn that these improvements won't be fully operational by 2026. The state faces at least several more years of elevated blackout risk during weather extremes. Texas also faces increasing tornado and hurricane threats along the Gulf Coast. Each major storm damages infrastructure that takes months to fully repair. The combination of grid independence, population growth, extreme weather from multiple sources, and infrastructure limitations makes Texas the most vulnerable state for blackouts in 2026. If you live in Texas, this isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to inform you so you can prepare properly. Now, let's step back and look at the bigger picture, because this isn't just about individual states, it's about the entire nation's infrastructure. Notice the geographic pattern? The South and Southwest dominate this list. That's not coincidental. These regions face the most extreme climate impacts, the fastest population growth, and, in many cases, the oldest infrastructure. But here's what should really concern you. Power grids are interconnected. When one region struggles, it can create cascading problems for neighboring states. A blackout in Texas doesn't just affect Texans. A grid failure in California impacts the entire western region. We're also seeing something economists call systemic risk. Individual problems might be manageable, but when multiple problems hit simultaneously, the entire system becomes vulnerable. Think about what happened in February 2021. That wasn't just a Texas problem. Natural gas shortages affected multiple states. Price spikes rippled across the entire energy market. We got a glimpse of how interconnected and fragile the system really is. So what's being done about this? Are we just supposed to accept blackouts as the new normal? There are solutions in progress. The federal government has allocated billions for grid modernization through recent infrastructure legislation. States are investing in hardening projects, underground power lines, and improved vegetation management around transmission corridors. Battery storage technology is advancing rapidly. Large-scale battery installations can store renewable energy and release it during peak demand, smoothing out the supply curve. Microgrids are being developed in critical areas. These are smaller, independent power systems that can operate separately from the main grid during emergencies, keeping essential services online. Smart grid technology is being deployed that allows better real-time management of electricity flow, automatically routing power around problems and preventing small issues from cascading into major blackouts. But here's the reality. These solutions take time, years, sometimes decades. We're in a race between infrastructure improvements and increasing climate volatility, and right now the race is too close to call. In the meantime, millions of Americans need to think seriously about resilience and preparation. Let me be practical for a moment. If you live in one of these 15 states, or really anywhere in America, here's what you need to think about. First, acknowledge that extended power outages are a real possibility. Don't assume it won't happen to you just because it hasn't yet. The data clearly shows increasing frequency and duration of blackouts nationwide. Have a family emergency plan. Know how you'll communicate if cell towers go down. Designate a meeting place if you're separated. Practice your plan so everyone knows what to do. Stock emergency supplies. Water is the most critical. You need at least 1 gallon per person per day for drinking and sanitation. 3 days minimum, 2 weeks is better. Non-perishable food, flashlights, batteries, first aid supplies, any medications you depend on. Consider backup power options. Portable generators can keep essentials running. Solar panels with battery backup systems provide independence from the grid. These investments aren't cheap, but they're becoming more affordable as technology improves. Know your medical vulnerabilities. If someone in your household depends on electrically powered medical equipment, you need a robust backup plan. Talk to your doctor about emergency protocols.
Insulate your home better. If power goes out during extreme heat or cold, good insulation buys you time before temperatures inside become dangerous. Build community connections. Know your neighbors. Communities that work together handle emergencies better than isolated individuals. Share resources, check on vulnerable people, pool information. Stay informed. Sign up for emergency alerts from your utility company and local government. Download emergency apps that work even when internet is down. Have a battery-powered radio for emergency broadcasts. Reduce your overall energy consumption. The less demand we collectively place on the grid, especially during peak hours, the more stable the system becomes. Small actions multiplied by millions of people make a real difference. And here's something most people don't consider: insurance. Review your homeowner's or renter's insurance. Understand what's covered during extended power outages. Food spoilage, property damage, lost wages. Many policies have limitations you should know about before an emergency. Finally, get involved politically. Infrastructure improvement requires public investment. Contact your representatives. Support policies and funding for grid modernization. This isn't about politics. It's about basic infrastructure that affects everyone, regardless of party affiliation. The good news is that none of this requires panic or extreme measures. It just requires acknowledgement that our power grid faces real challenges and responsible adults prepare for foreseeable problems. So, let's bring this all together. We've covered 15 states facing elevated blackout risks in 2026, from North Carolina at number 15 all the way to Texas at number 1. We've explored why this is happening: aging infrastructure, extreme weather, surging demand, and complicated energy transitions. But here's what I want you to take away from this video. This isn't about doom and gloom. It's about awareness and preparation. The American power grid has served us incredibly well for generations. The fact that we can flip a switch and instantly access electricity is a modern miracle that we take completely for granted. But miracles require maintenance, and we've neglected that maintenance for far too long. The challenges we're facing are significant, but they're not insurmountable. We have the technology, the resources, and the expertise to build a more resilient power grid. What we need is the collective will to prioritize this work and the individual responsibility to prepare for challenges during the transition. Whether you live in one of these 15 states or somewhere else entirely, you're part of the American power system. Your choices about energy consumption matter. Your voice in policy discussions matters. Your preparation for emergencies matters. Now I want to hear from you. Go back to the beginning of this video where I ask you to comment your state name. Look at those comments. See how many people are in these vulnerable states. That's your community. That's who this affects. And tell me in the comments, have you experienced blackouts where you live? How long did they last? What did you learn from the experience? Let's build a knowledge base together in the comments section. If this video opened your eyes to something you weren't fully aware of, share it. Send it to family and friends, especially those living in high-risk states. Information is power, literally in this case. Hit that subscribe button if you want more deep dives into issues that actually matter to your daily life. I'm committed to bringing you well-researched, straightforward information about topics that affect all of us. And remember, the goal isn't to fear the future, it's to face it prepared. Knowledge, planning, and community resilience will get us through whatever challenges lie ahead. Thanks for watching. Stay informed, stay prepared, and I'll see you in the next video.